Hello and welcome to our complimentary webinar, which is brought to you today in partnership with Talkdesk, Auscontact's national silver sponsor, and it's entitled How to Turn AI into ROI and Loyal Customers. In the spirit of reconciliation, Auscontact acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connection to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. The webinar will run for approximately 60 minutes, and during that time, with the help of today's special guests, Andrew and Richard, we hope to spark your interest and engage you in the conversation, as well as provide you with some ideas to take back to your respective businesses. To round off the session, we'll be having a Q&A at the end of the webinar. I'm Fiona Keogh, CEO of Auscontact and your moderator for today. While we're waiting for everyone to join us, let's use the time to quickly run through some housekeeping. Remember, in order to get the best out of today's webinar, you need to interact with us. There's no need to take too many notes because we'll be providing you with a recording of the webinar. To interact with us, please use the Q&A button on the control panel. You can ask questions or make comments for Andrew, Richard or myself throughout the webinar. Don't forget, we're having that Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so please type your questions as we go along so you don't forget to ask them. And if you are anonymous and the question isn't asked during the Q&A, we can't respond because we don't know who you are. If you're having technical difficulties, please note that on the control panel, you can click the raise hand button and the Auscontact team will rush to your aid. Or you can revert to your registration confirmation email and all the relevant phone numbers and access codes will be available there for you. So with that, let's test out that Q&A button on the control panel. And the question for today is, I was going to ask a very politically charged question, but I thought out of respect I shouldn't do that. Is, do you think that we will have a hung parliament after the election on the 21st of May? Now, I'm not going to ask Andrew or Richard their opinions on that one, just so that the recording is nice and clean. So we are getting some responses, and the vast majority of people are saying no. I'm of course not going to proffer my opinion. So clearly we know how to use that Q&A button on the control panel. So with that, I would love to introduce our speakers for today. Andrew Amtal, Head of Marketing APAC at Talkdesk, and Richard Oldham, AI Specialist at Talkdesk. And it's over to you, Andrew. A very big welcome to you.
Thank you, Fiona, and welcome everyone to this Talkdesk Auscontact webinar. My name is Andrew Amtal, as Fiona has pointed out, and I run marketing across the APAC region. And I've had a lot of experience in previous roles. The last role at Salesforce, I was head of marketing for the Marketing Cloud solution. So I talked to a lot of CMOs, heads of digital, CX leaders in understanding how to deliver a personalized service. So hopefully you'll find this webinar of real value and really simplistic in how you can leverage AI to deliver a great return and drive greater customer loyalty. So that's a brief introduction around myself. Richard, how about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew, and nice to meet everyone this morning. Richard Oldham, based in Sydney, so the AI specialist for Talkdesk within APAC region as well. Recent history or recent work history, working with a conversational AI vendor, a global vendor. So really getting to understand some of the AI capabilities, and particularly as it pertains to contact centers. So very happy to be here with you all today, and look forward through this to particularly give you a demonstration that will highlight some of the capabilities that Andrew's going to talk about. So thank you, Andrew. Back to you.
Great stuff, right? So we had a brief introduction last year when Talkdesk presented at another Auscontact webinar. And I thought I'd just take the time to just reintroduce, reconnect with yourselves as to who we are, right? We're been in the market, in the Australian market for just under a year, and we're still getting our brand named out there, but we have a global presence. And really our mission is to help organizations unlock the promise and potential of a great customer experience. As I've mentioned before in my previous roles, and likewise Richard, we now have a very demanding, very engaging customer set that we're dealing with, where they're a lot more savvy. They're looking for greater one-to-one personalized engagements. So we're here to help deliver on that vision, and through the technology that Richard's going to present, hopefully you'll get a feel for the innovation that Talkdesk brings to the marketplace. A little bit more commentary on Talkdesk. I won't go into too much detail. There's a lot of that on our website. I will say that we have, close to 2,000 employees across the region, over 2,500 customers across the globe, varying from enterprise organizations like a Lazada, all the way down to small local organizations such as Car Clarity Loan Market in the Australian marketplace. And part of our testament is being in a leadership position from the Gartner Magic Quadrant, as well as delivering great CSAT results on behalf of our customers. And then here's just a flavor of some of our customers in region and the industries that we play with or engage with. So aged care with Mabel, the iconic from a retail standpoint, a lot of customers in that finance, logistical sort of space like Car Clarity Loan Market, Craveable Brand. So we've got a real cross section of customers, both large and small, as well as across the respective industries. So being a cloud provider, we're able to deliver a great CX solution across a range of environments. So really what today's session is, how can AI simplify your role or your jobs? And, vendors, and I speak on behalf of vendors, where we get excited with all these new terms, and, from your perspective, life's pretty simple, is how do I solve a customer problem through the use of AI? And we've got this framework or methodology, which is thinking about the jobs that the call center operations is trying to solve, and then applying AI to solve some of those problems. So when you break it down, this jobs to be done framework, this is something that we've borrowed from a Harvard professor called Clayton Christensen, who wrote the Innovator's Dilemma. And he applied his observations in applying the idea of what was the role of a milkshake when customers came into a milk bar or a retail outlet in the US. And in that instance, the milkshake was really about just having some food in the system for people's long commutes. In the US, and I've lived in the US, some of my commute days were like an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I needed something to nourish me to get me from point A to point B. So we've borrowed that term, that jobs to be done methodology, and applied it in the call center operational perspective. So we're looking at, on the left here, how do I increase my self-service rate? And this is a focus on high quality user experience. The middle one, or the second one, is identifying those common issues, those common repetitive calls that's requiring our customers to actually engage with the call center operations. So if we can proactively manage that through AI, then that's a win. And then number 3 is helping the agents. I know it's a challenging time in some operations where we've got staff retention problems, staff motivational problems. So if we can utilize technology in a very simple way to help our agents, our workforce resolve issues quickly and correctly, then that's a great use of AI in that instance. So let's break this down a little bit more, okay? So what I'm presenting to you is our customer journey chart. So on the left-hand side, you see a customer. On the right-hand side, you see an agent. Our goal at Talkdesk is to shift the customers to the left. So the more you can shift, excuse me, your contact center strategy to the left in terms of automation, the more you can reduce your operational costs and improve your customer experiences. Based on the global view of our customers, those 2,500 customers that we have, we see costs varying anywhere from $5 to $15, depending on the length of the engagement. The same data from our customer base shows that if you have an automated experience, that can reduce the cost to about 20 to 22 cents, depending on the size of your operation and the industry that you're in. So if you can automate parts of your interaction, you're going to dramatically reduce the cost of your operations, driving your business case for the use of technology or AI, and ultimately driving a great customer experience to your consumers. So Fiona, I believe we've got a poll question to kick things off.
We do indeed. And what we're curious to see, Jess, if you can launch the poll, is what is your operational cost of resolving a customer issue or question? And I know Andrew's shared a couple of numbers with us. I guess it has a lot to do, though, Andrew, not only with the average handle time, but with the complexity of the interaction and the skill set and capability of the agent. As we know, it's an employees market. Currently, you're all being very shy. God love you. Come on, stick your finger in the air and pick a number, pick a range. If, for instance, a home loan exchange on the phone, an application for a home loan over the phone would certainly apply to significantly more dollars. So you're talking sort of an average service query, but you're not talking necessarily a transactional query.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and like I said, it varies from industry to industry and the type of product that you're offering. So absolutely, yeah. A home loan.
We've had one brave soul. Oh, someone who does. Oh, very good. Thank you. Right, we might close the poll and move on. But as we can see, some people are not aware of what their cost is, and two-thirds of the people that answered said that their cost is between $16 and $20. So there you go, Andrew.
All right, that's about the range. That's about the average that we see in surveying our customers as well, right? So, and in some instances, it's an unknown fact or variable because you may not have the reporting in place, or it's such a variable cost that it's quite difficult to measure. So let's continue on and start to dig into some of the technology that Rich is going to present that in very simple terms is how AI can actually support your business case and make your job a whole lot easier. So I'm going to start to make reference to some of the technology enablers that are part of our toolkit, and in order to be able to deliver great value from a customer's perspective and then ultimately support the agent as well. So on the left-hand side, we have voice biometrics as part of our toolkit called identity. And you think about and this is a very common problem in the contact center industry. And the analogy that I use is inviting a good friend of mine over for dinner, and my friend knocks on my front door. In my case, he hits the doorbell. And, we do a very similar thing in the contact center space where we invite our customers to do business. And the first thing that we do is ask them who they are and what do they want. So it's not a great start from the very outset, right? So this is exactly what voice biometrics solves. It uses the customer voice to authenticate that person in seconds versus the more traditional methods of passwords, PINs, or security questions to validate the customer. It's absolutely impossible to fake a customer voice. So this is one of the pieces of technology that our customers are using to just streamline that customer experience. And ultimately, it reduces the handle time from minutes down to seconds, and you know the rest. It reduces your overall handling time improves your ROI. The second enabler is the self-service portal. So you think about yourselves and the companies that you engage with where they may have a search function or a search engine on their website, and they're looking to answer a specific question. So we've seen the success rates of searching to responses. Once again, this is surveying our customer base, anywhere from 2 to 3% and all the way up to 10%, depending on the level of optimization between the website and your knowledge database. So we're in a position where we can utilize AI within your existing search engine services, where we can integrate AI, your knowledge management system, to be able to improve your hit rates in allowing or enabling our customers to be able to solve their problems themselves through a digital or an automated channel fashion. The third one, the third middle piece or box, is what we call our virtual agent. And this is where, and Richard will absolutely talk to this, is where we see our customers start to dip their toe in the water when it comes to AI deployment. And one of the common questions we get asked is, where shall I start? Shall I start on the customer side or the agent side? And I think it varies from organization to organization, and the jobs to be done type of methodologies really helps address that. So you think about what are the 2 or 3 common reasons why a customer calls into your contact center. And 9 times out of 10, there's probably 2 or 3 specific questions or repetitive questions that are ripe for automation. So if I can turn that experience into a digital one, I can reduce the cost of interaction, improve the overall customer experience. So breaking virtual agent down again, there's 2 sides to this. One is the voice component, where I can turn the IVR into a memorable experience, moving away from the 1s and the 2 type of experience to interacting with a voice or a chat bot, and ensuring that the bot itself understands the question, and more importantly, the intent and sentiment behind the question, and resolve it without the use of the agent. So you can see very quickly there are 3 pieces of AI kit that allows our customers, or allows us to move the experience to the left, so that the more you can automate that experience, ultimately you're reducing your costs and improving the customer engagement overall. And then I think I was expecting a poll question, Fiona, but I'm one too early. So just to close off on this particular framework, let's now start to shift or bring it all together and talk about interactive analytics. So, the ultimate question is, why do our customers call us, right? And it's, how long is a piece of string, right? So the traditional methods was either the manager or a dedicated team would listen to those recordings and try and glean, or try and then aggregate, the underlying sediments or common themes that are happening on a day-to-day or a week-to-week basis. And similar thing again, when we survey our customers, less than 1% of those recorded calls are actually being analyzed. So you flip that around, it's like a large percentage of the calls being received are not being dug into from an insight standpoint, understanding the speech and the text analytics, because it's a bit of a black box, right? So we have the ability to layer AI on top of that so that you can draw intent, but really summarize, I guess, the tone, or I guess the character of your customer base that are calling in, and pick out and understand the common themes that are happening on a day-to-day, week-to-week, and a month-to-month basis. So let's open it up again, Fiona, in relation to the poll question. So based on, let me just, I guess, ask the question of the audience. So based on the framework that you've seen here, is let's get a feel for whether AI is deployed across your organization, or if it is, are you focusing more on the customer side or the agent side, or in between?
Yeah, and Andrew, I think, you needed to, take us on that whole journey. So really in the graphic that you shared is that the interaction analysis that underpins both sides of the scheme, the customer and the agent side, or are you sitting on the customer query side, which was on the left-hand side of the graphic, or are you on the agent side, which was on the right-hand side of the graphic? Again, you're being very shy. It's okay. You're allowed to show your hand. Your secret is safe with us. But of those that have answered, I think they're here for the right reasons. Oh, there you go. Well done. Interesting, the responses that were either not deployed at all, or we're focusing on the agent side, which, I don't know whether you've seen this as well. Many organisations tend to work with the agent because of the risk appetite, I guess, in terms of potentially having a negative impact on the customer, and that you can work to get it right, in inverted commas, with your own people before you go into the public arena. I think that's probably a fair assumption. Thanks everyone for sharing that with us. All right, Andrew, back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's also interesting to see that quite a number of organisations are still yet to deploy AI. I think those stats are pretty common, where roughly 20%, 30% have deployed AI, and there's still quite a large percentage that are still trying to figure it all out. So then let's move on to the right-hand side. So I think based on the survey poll results, it gives us a good feel for where people are at. And once again, Richard will demonstrate this, but we're seeing a lot of value, a lot of inquiries in how do we support the agent. It's a very challenging time within that community. And if we can utilize technology or AI to help that, then that's really what that main focus is all about. So really the idea of automation is to surface knowledge to the agent in a just-in-time type of manner. So by listening in, so this is where Agent Assist is listening in to the conversation and then serving up recommendations or answering the questions through text. So this is like the parallel of Google Maps, where you're in your car, you're listening to the GPS and following those instructions. So turn left, go down the road 2 miles, turn right. So the analogy here is, as the agent is handling the call, then the information via the Agent Assist module is then providing real-time information so that the agent can focus on delivering a great experience versus trying to find answers to the customer question.
Back to me again. So let's get those fingers on the keyboard, and you guys will know the answer to this. What is your average handle time for a call? Now, it includes your talk or your wrap or your after call work. Is it 0 to 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes, or is it above 8 minutes? Now, I knew people would know the answer to that because they're contact centre people, and it's one of the key metrics that people focus on. They certainly use as KPIs for their frontline staff. Okay. Cool. We might get close to closing the poll. And again, 2/3 are saying between 5 and 8 minutes, and the remainder saying above 8 minutes. That must be a complex transaction, one might suspect, Andrew.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and I guess maybe the follow-up question is understanding whether the handle times have decreased or increased over the last 6 to 12 months. So that's maybe a question for next time. But yeah, no, it's certainly not an easy thing, solving a question in under 3 minutes or 5 minutes. We all wish that, but we're seeing that it's actually starting to increase or blow out as customers expect more and have more technical questions. So So I think I've answered everything now. So I think what I'm now going to do is hand over to Richard, who will actually get into the product itself.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. Just go now share my screen. And if I could confirm that you see my browser.
Yep, I can see the virtual agent.
Perfect. Yeah, and thank you, Andrew, for walking through that. And as you shared, as you talked about some of those solutions, our AI solutions within our platform, I am going to address a few of them. But I'm going to start off with our studio, the Talkdesk Studio, which is a really powerful way for us to manage the call flow. And I'm sure you've all seen examples of this, but what I see as a differentiator, because I mentioned up front that I've come from a conversational AI vendor. And part of the challenge whenever I spoke to customers was the virtual agent was almost considered in isolation. Sort of, yeah, we're going to deploy a chatbot via either voice or chat. And then sometime later, they try to work out, oh, now how do we integrate this into the contact center, right? The best approach, which should be obvious, right, is to work and have a strategy where your virtual agent is part of your contact center from day one. And through Talkdesk Studio Flow, what you see here, and I can point it out, is that it's a component within our call handling. So a call comes in, and I can talk about these other components, but then it immediately gets handed off to a virtual agent to see if that can assist the customer in their query. Of course, we might employ various techniques up front to ask whether they do want to speak to a virtual agent, etc. So we might offer the combination of virtual agent or human agent up front. So there's obviously different techniques we can have, but in this instance, we're just immediately going to a virtual agent. And then, of course, seamlessly managing or handling an escalation where a virtual agent, perhaps by design, may need to hand off to a human to perform more of the complex tasks, or it might be by exception where the virtual agent does not know the answer, says, okay, apologize, let me hand you off to a human who may be able to assist. So it's that seamless handling of the escalation, which is key. You do not want to have, or ideally do not want to have your virtual agent as an isolated tool and not integrated with the rest of your contact center, such that otherwise you're just not going to get a cohesive or a good customer experience. So now I'm now showing what we refer to as our Talkdesk workspace, where both agents, supervisor, administrators, and other roles within the organization can interact with our Talkdesk applications. I'm now going to make a call into that call flow that we were observing. And you'll see here that it's going to pop up as a session monitor. So I'm going to be watching in real time the conversation to the virtual agent. But first, let me set the scene. So I've been out to dinner with friends. I've grabbed a taxi home and, as we all do, paid with my phone and left the taxi. Great night. A couple of hours later, though, I get a text or SMS from my bank advising me that they've seen some suspicious activity on my credit card. I then realized, quickly running around going, I haven't got my wallet. I must have left it somewhere out that evening, have no idea where. The SMS also advises, quite rightly, that I should contact the bank as soon as possible to try and sort of get the card cancelled and just go through some of the recent transactions to see if they were me or they were indeed fraudulent. So let me now start by calling my friendly bank.
Welcome to Talkdesk Bank. Thank you for calling. We kindly ask you to authenticate with your voice. To do so, please say, "My password is my voice," and press any key to finish.
My password is my voice.
Thank you. You have been successfully authenticated. We will now transfer you to a virtual agent who can assist you. I am Talkdesk Bank Virtual Agent, and I am trained to provide you with your account balance, help you cancel a credit card, and set up travel notification credit card alerts. How can I help you today?
What's my closest branch?
I am sorry, I could not understand your request. Please ask again.
I lost my wallet, so I want to cancel my credit card.
I see that you have 2 cards associated with your account. Visa personal card finished in 8467 and a MasterCard Travel International card finished in 9212. Which card are you referring to?
The Visa card.
It looks like your Visa card ending on 8467 has been locked due to a suspicious charge. Let me transfer you to one of our colleagues to assist you further.
Okay, so through that process, hopefully you saw fairly straightforward handling of my customer query through the virtual agent, and now seamlessly handing off to the human agent through that escalation. Now let's go back and just look at that transcript. And I'm sure you probably noticed that what's my Spices branch, so what's my closest branch. And the fact that it was a conversation miss is key. And we're going to come back to this when I start to talk about AI trainer. Part of the challenge that clients see is once deploying AI, as an example in a virtual agent context, then the challenge is then to continue to optimize and improve. Right? And that's where through AI trainer, which I'll show, we've really simplified that process such that you do not need a team of specialists who are just focused on some data scientists around that, machine learning models, etc. So really the ability to simplify and improve the virtual agent. So if I also some of the other sort of utterances or the phrases that the customer, if I click on that, the insights, I can see the intent. So in this particular example, the virtual agent was able to recognize what the customer was after and identify it as a particularly negative intent. And I think we'd all agree, I lost my wallet, so I want to cancel my credit card. That naturally is a fairly negative sentiment. Right? And of course, through the conversation, the virtual agent is always determining what intent, if necessary, if applicable, what's the sentiment. We can use that within the conversation to perhaps escalate or do other programmatical handling of the call. So now I'm going to go back to handling that conversation, right? And you would have heard also at the start of that call where it asked me to validate or authenticate myself, saying my password is my voice. That's the identity piece that Andrew spoke of. And there is 2 components. One is the voice authentication to prove, yes, I'm talking and it is me. Now, obviously that requires prior enrollment in that service. So perhaps the first time I'd call my bank, they would ask me, hey, Richard, would you like to enroll in our voice authentication? That way in future calls, we'll be able to quickly authenticate you and get the best support for your particular requirement, right? Or you make it far more personalized. So that's a voice authentication. We also can perform phone validation. And what does that do? And I can show some details. And really through APIs and through the carriers, we get some visibility into the validation or the risk of the phone number associated to the phone number calling in. Some things are, is it currently valid? Is it current subscriber? The carrier, the country, is it prepaid or not? An associated fraud score, which is kind of looking at all of these parameters as a whole. VoIP, typically a VoIP handset, voice over IP, could be seen as more risky, etc. So all these parameters, all these metrics or metadata associated with my mobile phone number, we can then determine whether it looks safe or is risky. This all supports an agent's and a system view of who we're dealing with, right? You might say you're Richard, or might authenticate you as Richard, but I'm on a very high risk phone, or probably more likely I'm on a safe phone, but I'm trying to impersonate Richard. And so the voice authentication would fail. Okay, so now I'm handling the call, right? It's come in from Richard, or apologies, this time I've kind of made myself as Alex, so I've associated within my contact my phone number to Alex. Where we're next going to go is I'm going to now start to ask some questions as the customer, and we're going to see Agent Assist come in to play. Agent Assist is where, just on this right-hand side, I can provide recommendations to the agent. The agent can see the transcription in real time and see some highlights of the conversation, so they can very quickly, more efficiently, provide the right information back to the customer. What does that drive? It obviously drives efficiency, but consistency, right? We're providing a consistent experience for all customers. It's not just necessarily on, okay, what does the agent know? Okay, they need to hand off now, or reach out to an SME or a supervisor for more assistance. Let's give the agent all the tools they need to best support that customer. Okay, so now I'm just going to go off mute, and we will hear, I'm just going to ask a few more questions where we'll see the transcription. I lost my wallet, so I want to cancel my credit card. I want to know my savings account balance ending in 9010. Put my phone on mute again and ask my woman. So interesting. So I want to cancel my credit card. As you would imagine, recommendations are not just looking at specific keywords. We're building an intent model, applying AI. So that way, even though perhaps the transcription sort of perhaps across the mobile phone, perhaps the link, the link into my provider, not that accurate at the moment, or not that strong at the moment. So getting a bit of a misread of the speech to text, the transcription, but the intent model still knows what I'm after, right? The recommendations is a way now for me as an agent to click on that, and I get a knowledge-based article that is presented to me to assist me in resolving the customer's query, right? So these knowledge-based articles can be pulled in from external sources, because I'm sure you all have existing knowledge management systems with similar content. So what we can do is start to pull that content into Talkdesk and use that within an Agent Assist. And within the same, what we see is almost a single pane of glass. So no longer does the agent now need to pull up their knowledge management system, search, do some manual queries, manual searches until they find the right article. We can be proactive and present that to the agent based on the question being asked by the customer. Okay. So I'm now going to end that call. And you may recall when I said around that missed conversation, right? If we go back to that virtual agent and this conversation miss, what's my Spices branch? I actually said, what's my closest branch? So let's now, at the end of the day, I'm an agent and I'm going to allocate perhaps 10 minutes of my time to go and improve the virtual agent and maybe the Agent Assist part around intent understanding, etc. So this is very much about now doing that, identify causes of customer issues, right? That middle piece that Andrew spoke of. And we're going to be using that AI trainer, human in the loop, solution that we have as part of our platform. So if I go now to AI Trainer Trainer's dashboard provides an insight as to what are the reasons customers have been calling. What are the intents? How many intents have we hit? How many have we missed, etc. Right? So it's a great dashboard to give a high-level view over time about the most common queries coming in to our system. Now, those conversation misses, we have designed to automatically go into the AI Trainer inbox, because perhaps that's an opportunity for us again to optimize the virtual agent. You see here, the What's My Spices branch has been pushed through to AI Trainer inbox. As an agent, I'm coming along to the inbox and say, hey, I think I know, or I know which intent that phrase should match. So I'm going to click on that. And as an agent, I could either ignore, saying, we don't want to handle that question yet because it requires really human capability. We're not in a position perhaps to automate that. To do later, we might say, I want a SME, or I might want my supervisor. I want to chat first about, do we need to build a new process to be able to support these questions? But in this example, I'm going to do a train intent. I'm going to select the particular response that I want, closest branch. And we have the ability to change the phrase to train. So what's my closest branch? So now I'm going to save. And as an agent, that could be part of my role during the day to go into the inbox and propose that these are the resolution, these are the intents that we should retrain the model for. A supervisor or an admin or another role also during the day, or perhaps first thing in the morning, might come along and do some quality checks. I see that the agents have proposed that there's this new phrase that we should push to this intent. So I click in there. I can review and say, what's my closest branch? Yep, I agree. So I'm going to start the review. Confirm that we're going to accept this phrase and push it through to that intent. End review. So as a supervisor or another role, I can go through and also within this AI trainer can start to do some checks around the proposals that the agent have performed. Finally, once I'm happy and have done all those QA checks, I can go and launch these updates to the model. So let's now use that closest branch. What's my closest branch? So I'm now going to launch, and we'll see it's being launched. And in a few seconds, we'll see that the launch is completed. So the intent agreement has indeed been launched. And in terms of optimizing and improving the system, that is it, right? I'm now going to call back into the virtual agent, and we're going to be able to hear the virtual agent now responding to that question around where's my closest branch. Now, there's a caveat, obviously, and I'm assuming once we hear this, you'll probably be asking, oh, how did the virtual agent know how to respond? So that would typically be done. So we're kind of defining a process. Okay, if this question gets asked, we're going to design the process such the virtual agent responds in this manner. However, throughout the day, throughout weeks, there's going to be many different ways that customers can ask that same question. And this is where AI Trainer is very powerful. The ability to come in here and say, okay, that new phrase we haven't heard before, or the intent model hasn't been retrained with that new phrase. So now let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so now let's go. I'm going to now call again.
Welcome to Talkdesk Bank. Thank you for calling. We kindly ask you to authenticate with your voice. To do so, please say, my password is my voice, and press any key to finish.
My password is my voice.
Thank you. You have been successfully authenticated. We will now transfer you to a virtual agent who can assist you. I am Talkdesk Bank Virtual Agent, and I am trained to provide you with your account balance, help you cancel a credit card, and set up travel notification credit card alerts. How can I help you today?
What's my closest branch?
Sure, I can help you with finding your closest branch. What is your location?
It's 100 George Street, Sydney.
Your closest branch is located at 150 York Street, Sydney. Is there anything else that I can help you with today?
No, that's all. Thank you. Okay, so an example there now where it was able to recognize that where's my choicest branch in this instance. And that highlights the fact that, again, we're training the virtual agent around a variety of different questions, right? So when we push that, where's my closest branch? Again, it's not going to say, I must put that exact phrase in. It's a combination of a variety of those words such that it hits the right intent. Okay, that's the demonstration. I hope you found it useful or insightful in supporting some of the solutions that Andrew spoke about. So Andrew, I'll stop sharing and over to yourself again, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Let's just get reset here. So we're tracking pretty well. We've got about 10, 11 minutes to go before the top of the hour. So we're now into the Q&A session. So Fiona, hopefully you can see my screen and just open it up to the audience for some
questions.
Last-minute questions.
Yeah, and thank you, Richard, for that very thorough demonstration. You took us on a very easy to understand tour of how Talkdesk works, and I think that was really, really good to see. You could see people logging back in again as you were going through it, so that was pretty cool. So some of the questions that have come up. Contact centres love real-time information. As you are well aware. And one of the questions is the trainer dashboard real time or is it historical?
I'll take that one, Andrew. So the AI trainer, it's historical, but hopefully you saw that in that example that while not 100% real time, we're only talking seconds or within a few minutes before that new phrase gets pushed through to that AI trainer inbox. Right? So that once it's in the inbox, then we can obviously then see a historical record of all those phrases that have been highlighted as an opportunity for retraining of the model. Right? So it's very much historical, but the actual population is very real time. But and I think I alluded to that probably through the demonstration where the best practice, and each organization is different, best practice will be most likely allocating some period of time, perhaps the end of the day, beginning of the day, end of the week, where you go to AI trainer and then perform some of that retraining.
Andrew, you look like you're navigating to share something.
I was going to share something in the next slide. So if you caught me off guard, but no.
Oh, there you go. So Richard, this is probably another one for you. I love technical questions as an old techo. So you mentioned that you can link Talkdesk into your existing knowledge management system rather than reinventing the wheel. And I don't know whether I should ask which way this question should be asked. Does Talkdesk work with all knowledge management systems in the market? Or perhaps it should be phrased, which ones don't you work with? I don't know. I'll leave it to you to answer that one.
Yeah, we certainly work with a number of third-party systems. And when we say work with, that's a matter of when we just build a new knowledge base that we can just point to that third-party system. Typical examples, Confluence, ServiceNow, Salesforce, and so on. So the more common knowledge management systems we can integrate with. If it's not one we support today, and that is always growing, the number of systems that we support is always growing, but if it's not, then there's certainly means where through professional services, we can take an export of your system and ingest it into Talkdesk, right? So there's a number of systems that we support today. You're right. Is it absolutely exhaustive? No, right? But over time, working with you with particular knowledge management systems, if we don't have it today, then there might be an opportunity to enhance or indeed do that manual ingestion into to the Talkdesk platform.
Thank you. Andrew, I think this is a question for you. When you were talking, taking us through the jobs to be done with the customer on the left and the agent on the right and the interaction analytics underpinning the activity, the question is, where do you start? Is it with interaction analytics? Is it with the staff member, or is it with the customer? Where would you recommend you go?
Look, it varies depending on the organisation and what you're trying to solve, right? But based on what I'm seeing, what Richard is seeing, the majority of the focus is on the agent side. And I think that's partially related to just the challenges in that space. So people working remotely, a lot of staff turnover, retraining of new staff, right? So the ability to layer some technology, AI technology into that mix to make the job of the agent easier or more value add, if I can say that, is where we're seeing about 70 to 80% of the AI deployments taking place.
Okay, thank you. So now
Fiona,
that we've just, sorry, Richard.
Fiona, if I may just add, and yeah, Andrew, 100% right, but I think also when we look at that agent experience or that agent assist as what I demonstrated, there's still the need to understand why the customers are calling, right? To be able to provide the right tools for the agent, it's that $1 million question. Why are we getting these calls? And many organizations today probably have a lot of stats around that. So it's really pulling in that, importing that into that agent experience so they can better support. So you're right, agent is most likely the place to start, but you still need to know why customers are calling. So you're not just throwing doing something in the dark, right?
Perfect. So we've decided we're going to start with the agent. And with that decision in mind, what's your implementation timeframe?
Absolutely. So implementation within the Talkdesk platform, to be able to, let's assume we're talking about knowledge-based articles, intent modeling, such that we can quickly, proactively present those recommendations. That in itself, the actual process of standing up our Talkdesk platform, we can do within number of days or a short number of weeks, right? So it's the standing up of the platform is straightforward. The then modeling of those intents is through the Talkdesk platform. We can do within minutes and hours. It really going to depend on how many, what I call use cases, right? How many knowledge-based articles are we going to launch with? And often we say, you know what, it's that low-hanging fruit. What are the reasons? What are the highest volumes that are coming through to those customers? Let's focus those knowledge articles, quickly populate them within the platform or point them to the third-party system, write the intent, map it to the knowledge-based article, and then we're good to go, right? So it's hard to put an actual hours or days or weeks, but it is a very straightforward process, again, where you're not needing those data scientists, right? So you're not needing to hire additional people. You can use our platform, and in a matter of days, I would suggest, is you can start to see the efficiencies being driven through that agent assist experience.
Thank you. Now, we're still talking about employees because we've decided we're going to use AI with employees, and this is just going to close the loop, and then we've got a question about customers. So, Andrew, you talked about this early on, but to take it to the next level, and you said you had about 2,500 clients globally, which is statistically quite significant. So in your experience, what impact does AI have on employee morale?
Yeah, look, and it varies again from industry to industry, but look, we've been able to see a positive result from an agent engagement standpoint, and from a productivity standpoint, reducing the handle rates, as well as enriching the agent from a value add standpoint. So they're actually feeling like they're providing a personalized service to those particular customers. From a manager's standpoint, they're able to provide this kind of training ground, this development career path, right? So whereby the more seasoned, more experienced agents are able to handle the more challenging calls, but also utilize the technology to help address some of those more difficult calls, right? And then embed or pass on that knowledge to other members of the team. So they kind of become super agents within the respective organizations. So I think it's a combination of just being able to deliver great service at that one-to-one level, but also internally being able to reshape the role of the agent so that it's not just about handling calls, but being able to deliver, according to the phrase, a better level of service.
Right, fantastic. So we've talked about the effect on the employee. The next thing is, how do you manage the customer transition to AI? Do you rip the Band-Aid off and say, we're all going down this pathway? How do you go about it? What's the process you would recommend to undertake?
I'll lead, Andrew. It's not dissimilar to the agent or employee focus. It's really about understanding, if we're talking to self-service, the virtual agent in particular, right? And recognize that it probably is, for many organizations, a bigger hurdle or bigger solution to consider rather than the agent assist. So when you're looking at a virtual agent, again, it's the concept of what's that low-hanging fruit. I referred to it earlier with the agent assist, but the low-hanging fruit in terms of virtual agents, about what are the reasons, again, customers are calling in. Are there a subset, a high volume, and the more, I don't want to say simple, but the more rudimentary that you think will unlikely require escalation, right? So the more of those particular use cases or those questions being asked that we say, yep, high volume, and more often than not, I think we can contain that within the virtual agent. They are the ones to lead with, right? And once that's been done, often what is considered then, so what channel do we launch? Do we launch in voice? Do we launch in chat? And that is going to be very much dependent on the audience, right? What are their requirements? With Talkdesk, it is very simple to quickly move to a voice chatbot. However, some organizations may say, no, we want to present a little chatbot in our website, such that that is an additional channel, or through perhaps some social media channels. So I would suggest that, not dissimilar to the agent assist, understanding the volumes, understanding what are those ones that can be contained within a virtual agent to really address, and don't try and boil the ocean. Perhaps look at a narrow subset of questions and deploy. But it's all about then optimizing to ensure you get utilization. Okay, it's because you've got to keep on improving that model.
Yeah, it's through the trainer.
Yes, that's correct, through the trainer.
Yeah, brilliant. I cannot believe it, but we are at time. So maybe if I could get some closing remarks, Andrew, from you, and then we'll close off for the day.
Yeah, I'm just going to highlight one or two key things. So one of our customers, called Lemonade in the US, It's an insurance company, very strong on analytics and the use of data to be able to provide a digital automated experience. So whether you use the QR code or the URL link to that article, it just talks about how they've been able to solve that personalization scenario via their call center operations. So it's a great simple read. And then for further information, we just skimmed the surface, Richard and I, in relation to how AI can actually help you guys out. There's a great report that just gives you a little bit more detail as to where we're going with AI from a customer versus an agent perspective. Our details are all listed there if you want further information, obviously, or want to dig into the product itself. There's both our details listed there. So hopefully you've got a real better feel for how AI in that jobs to be done type of framework will help you just formulate, just figure out, okay, I think I've got a handle on what AI can do and where I can start to deploy AI within my organization.
Thanks, Andrew. I really like the jobs to be done framework. It really simplified it. And, for me, I have my left and my right, and I have my interactions analysis underpinning it. So I've got it. Maybe my next job is at Talkdesk. No. You guys don't want an old girl like me. So with that, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you to everybody that attended, to Richard for his very rich demonstration that made it feel really, really real. Any of the additional information that Andrew has mentioned, we will include in the follow-up email to you. Thank you once again to Talkdesk, our national silver sponsor, and to everybody. Have a great rest of your day wherever you might be. Thanks, everyone.